Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone in the audience. I hope you guys are all aspiring entrepreneurs, pop-up lovers. I am a pop-up lover. I have loved the entrepreneur space for over 30 years that I've been in the retail leasing industry. I started buying shopping centers back in 1992 and own my own portfolio in South Florida now. But I've always been passionate about entrepreneurs, mom and pop shops. And I knock on doors and try to get unique entrepreneurs to come into my shopping centers and my client shopping centers. And many times when I'll walk into a retail store and I see it over inventoried, or I see a retail concept that I think is phenomenal, I always say, what about a pop-up? What about a temporary store? You know, maybe if it's an educational books and toys for kids, I'll say, what about back to school? Or if this past year during COVID, I wanted a toy store. I thought in one of my shopping centers, I thought that COVID was going to have a pent-up demand of money savings and that parents were going to overspend on their kids during the holidays. So I said, let me go find a toy store or a hobby store that I could lease to in my center on a temporary basis. And if they do well, you know, the long-term goal for us landlords is that you guys do so well, you stay. And I found a hobby store. They had 2 locations, and I convinced them, you know, I would usually text on Facebook, or I go knock on doors if you already have a bricks and mortar. And this time I actually sent an email on the Facebook page where, you know, you would register a question or a complaint because they didn't have a Facebook DM attached to their Facebook page. So I went to their website and I said, hi, I own shopping centers. I would love to give you 3 months free during Christmas. And like about a week later, they called and said, we got your message on our website. What's the catch? And I said, no catch. I think you could bring traffic to my center during the holidays. I have vacancy, so why not? I'm happy to help you. You bring unique traffic. And if you do well, maybe you'll stay. And what happened was they were there 2 weeks in October and they did in the 40,000 range. November, they did about, I think it was 89,000. And then in December, they did 175,000 and they signed a 3-year lease. So it was a huge win-win for me, the landlord, and for them. So Janelle mentioned Clubhouse. For those of you that are on Clubhouse, while I was doing this in my own shopping centers with pop-ups, and since then I think I've signed 5 or 6 pop-ups and 3 have turned into long-term deals. I did a gym equipment space where I said, come bring your gym equipment. He had a warehouse full of gym equipment. And I said, come into my empty Pier 1. And he's still there, but the space is way too big for him. I think if I could find him something smaller, he'd sign a longer term lease, but I'm okay right now. And back then, again, 6 months ago, I thought everyone is outfitting their gyms, their home gyms, a gym and equipment retailer pop-up would be great. So I had him come in and so what I do with pop-ups and what I tell my landlords for Clubhouse, which I'll share on Clubhouse, I have something called Space Tank. So it's obviously a spin-off of the name Shark Tank because I was listening on Clubhouse to Shark Tank and I thought, wow, I would love to give entrepreneurs some money, but I don't have any money. And I thought, wait a minute, I have something and all my friends like Chris Ressa, landlords have something. We have something a lot of more since the pandemic, which is vacancies. So I started calling all my landlord friends and I said, hey, if you have 3 or more vacancies, you should donate one to my cause of helping prop up the economy with pop-ups. I'm going to have this event on Clubhouse. And they're like, what's that? All my landlords, what's Clubhouse? I said, come on and check it out. And the first night we had 54 landlords. And the second night we had 75 landlords. And we had entrepreneurs like you who are interested in pop-ups show up. And I said to the landlords, you have to commit to 90 days free. Now, what does the entrepreneur do? The entrepreneur takes the space as is. We can't expect our landlords to invest in the space for you. So we kind of have to be the matchmaker. If you're a clothing store, if I can find a space with a dressing room, awesome. If you're a coffee shop, can I find a space for you that's a second gen coffee, tea, pastry place? Awesome. So you have to take the space as is. You give insurance for the space, liability insurance. and you pay the utilities. So that's what we on Clubhouse, on Space Tank, we ask the entrepreneurs to do. Maybe a small deposit, definitely utilities, unless you're in a mall, because some of you know when you're in the mall pays the utilities. But if you're in a grocery anchored center, you need to pay the utilities. Take the spaces and give insurance. And the first night we matched 27 businesses with landlords, and the second night, 32. So I love matching pop-ups, entrepreneurs, helping them achieve the American dream with landlords around the country. So, and what my pop-ups, what I find on Space Tank is it is entrepreneurs in a variety of positioning. One, they already have a bricks and mortar and they want to try out a new concept or a new market. Or two, they have an online business, like Chris said, and they want to try bricks and mortar. We had a young lady who had a scrubs business. She had a warehouse full of scrubs. She sold online. She was doing about $150,000 in revenue, and she wanted to try a bricks and mortar across from a hospital in Texas. And we had a bunch of landlords that wanted to talk to her. Our first success story, and you can check this young lady out on Instagram, from Clubhouse Space Tank, is a woman by the name of Vernell, and she runs Sweet Tea Factory. She came on our first Space Tank and did not get a match. I said, come back, because she wanted a specific market. She wanted as close to Savannah, Georgia as possible. She came back on Space Tank night number 2, and we matched her with the Tanger Outlet Mall Company, and they had a space in Pooler, Georgia. She opened her business 2 weeks ago. So check her out on Instagram. We're so excited that we finally have our first success story. But something new came up, and while I'm in Detroit, I have just been hired by Bedrock. They own a mall in Cleveland, Ohio, called the Tower City Center. And I have just been hired. So I'm hoping some of you in the audience are going to be interested in this, to fill their mall, that is, by the way, anchored by the Ritz-Carlton and Morton Steakhouse, for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Awards show and the NBA All-Star Game. What? So I've got a bunch of spaces that I toured yesterday. I'm going to be creating a pop-up experience collateral, and Janelle, I'll get it to you. And if you guys DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn, we're going to be looking for all kinds of pop-ups for the 6-month period. And obviously my goal as to help out this mall is I want some of you to stay long-term, but think of the hundreds of thousands of people coming to Cleveland for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Awards and the NBA All-Star Game. And so we're going to start in October, opening the pop-ups, and go all the way till March and cover all of those 2 huge events. So pop-ups are expanding beyond just mall pop-ups, weekend pop-ups, bricks and mortar pop-ups, 3-month pop-ups. Now you can see I have been tasked to help with event pop-ups. Retailers like you wanting to be in the presence of this tourist explosion of traffic in Cleveland, Ohio. So if you're any retailer that's listening or any pop-up in the Midwest or outside of the Midwest that wants to take advantage of these 2 events, please reach out. So yeah, what exactly? So any questions for me? I think, and one of the other things that I've been involved in, and just to kind of give you guys some experience or know about my experience and my love for the entrepreneur, is we created something called down in South Florida, the South Florida Independent Retail Awards, where it's like an Oscar Awards. And every year, we had to cancel last year, but we did it in 2018 and 19, where, and we'd like to see other communities do this across the country, where we pick 15 categories. So best nail salon, best coffee shop, best Italian restaurant, et cetera, and we nominate the landlords, the brokers, and the community nominate what they feel are the best of in those categories. And then we do live voting in the event and what's so exciting is those entrepreneurs who are in the room that are nominees get to meet the 300 landlords in the room. And there are deals being made at that event also. So I love mom and pops, entrepreneurs. The way to get started, back in 07, 8, and 9, when we had the financial crisis, it was the biggest boom of entrepreneurial ideas ever. And I believe because of you all, this is going to be bigger than that boom. Because during that boom, there was a shortage of capital. There is not a shortage of capital now. And if you have an idea, now is the time. In 09, Airbnb and Uber were invented. What are you going to invent? And I hope you do it in a pop-up. Let's try out the idea in a pop-up, and let's prop up the economy with pop-ups and help you fill your American dream. So that's my story on pop-ups, Janelle. And let me see if you guys have any questions for me. I am happy to answer them. Let me go to the stage. So any questions for me? So yes, Janelle and I have a passionate sharing love for pop-ups. But yes, and the landlords on Clubhouse are definitely, I think you have Brixmore coming on next, Laura. I found out that during COVID, they did over I'm sure she's going to share this. I don't want to blow her cover, but 200 pop-ups in their portfolio around the country. So how awesome that you have a landlord that has an open mind to thinking there's someone in our community that provides a service or provides a service or merchandise that might turn into something like, I don't know about you guys, but back, I'm older than probably most of you watching, but whoever thought when I was a teenager, we'd be selling bottled water. So what's the next product that we're going to sell? And you guys will create revenue for yourselves. And again, us landlords, yes, eventually we like rent, but we really, really, really like traffic. We really, really, really like traffic. So any questions for me? I can tell you, so here are some of the pop-up stores. I know, I think Jeannie was asking about uses for pop-ups. So I did a pop-up with a musical academy where a woman was doing piano lessons in her house and wanted to try doing it in a retail space in a shopping center. So I put her in a former chiropractor space where there was rooms. She went in and soundproofed them, and it blew into a huge business. She started with 600 square feet, and she ended up expanding, hiring teachers, bringing in great customers to the shopping centers, because as the mom and dads are dropping off their kids for the music lessons, they shopped at the shopping center for that hour. So that's a great pop-up. My other pop-ups I've done, I told you about the hobby store. They're doing phenomenal. I did a blinds and drapery store. So I had met during COVID. I was doing videos for local community, my local hometown hero retailers. I was doing videos with them because everyone was kind of locked up at home. And I thought, how can I get both my tenants and the local retailers some coverage or some exposure while we're all at home and everyone's on YouTube? So I interviewed this company that had been in my town, Davie, Florida, for 49 years in one location. So I wasn't thinking that they were ever going to open another one. They were pretty happy with their one location. And I interviewed, it was the father-son business. The son had just gotten to the business a few years earlier. And I interviewed them about COVID and blinds and draperies and, all that stuff, how long they'd been in the business. And a couple weeks later, I reached out to the son and I said, would you ever consider, if I was to give you 3 or 4 months free, I have a center 7 miles away from your current location, maybe 10 miles away, and it has a lighting store. I put in a pop-up billiards, pinball store. It had a kitchen and design store. I said, would you consider coming in as a pop-up and trying out a second store? I know you've been here for 49 years. You're an established business, but would you ever want to try a new market? And they said, sure. And they were there for 4 months and they just signed a 5-year lease. because their business, did way better. They thought that everyone was coming to them at their location that they had been at for 49 years. Well, being next to a lighting store and a billiard and pinball, think about that, home decorating kind of, same concept. And then the kitchen and bath store, and now they're the blinds and drapery store. They had a great synergy and they were very happy with their sales. The billiards guy is another pop-up. So I found him in one of those community magazines. He was advertising. It turned out he had 8 locations in the state of Florida. And I said, well, come. I had a former Vision Workspace, 6,000 square feet. He brought in all these huge, beautiful pool tables, these pinball machines, these hanging bar lights, man cave signs, really, built it out beautifully. He's there till August. I gave him 6 months free. I'm not sure if he'll stay. His sales are not as great as the blinds and drapery guys, but we'll see. You never know. And then I told you about the gym equipment guy. So I had found him, reached out to him and found out that he had bought out 2 24-hour fitness huge gyms. I said, well, where'd you put all of that gym equipment? He goes, oh, it's in my warehouse. I go, why is it in your warehouse? Bring it into my empty Pier 1 next to my Aldi grocery store. And at least, you may get a few sales because no one's kind of coming to your warehouse to look at the 500 treadmills that you have. So they, again, merchandised it beautifully. Oh, and that was the other thing. If you do pitch a landlord or come on Space Tank and do your pitch, it's always good to share your backstory. The landlords want to know the backstory. The landlords want to know why you're thinking about doing this, or what did you do in your past life that prepared you for this? I remember one of the early stories on our first Space Tank night. We had a young woman who wanted to open a curated space in Atlanta in a mall. And she said, I have apparel and jewelry design and purses and handbags. And she wanted to have all of these little vendors in a 3,000 square foot space. And I think the mic dropped when she said, and when I graduated from college with my retail merchandising degree and went and worked at Abercrombie and Fitch for 3 years, learning the retail business, everyone was like, we want her, we want her. So think about what about you, it gives you the desire and the passion to want to do a pop-up, because landlords are looking for that you as a unique person who's going to drive unique traffic. Hi, Scott. How would spaces and brands find the Clubhouse channel? Great question. So the best way to find it is to follow me on Clubhouse and ping the alert button so that when I open the room, the Space Tank room, you are alerted, Beth just opened Space Tank. I also, if you follow me on Instagram, Scott, for probably the week before we have the event, and then every day leading up to the event, I promote it on my Instagram. So I'm like, Space Tank in 3 days, Space Tank in 2 days, Space Tank tonight, Space Tank in 1 hour. So because I know it's hard on Clubhouse there's like no calendar, which is, maybe that's something that they're going to fix as they grow. So following me both on Clubhouse and both on Instagram, and if you are on LinkedIn, I also publish it. So the minute we pick the date that we're going to have the Clubhouse and I have the landlords ready to go, then I start jumping into entrepreneur rooms on Clubhouse, inviting entrepreneurs to come. But I absolutely promote it I do it on Twitter, I do it on LinkedIn, I do it on Instagram, and then follow me on Clubhouse with the little alert bell, and then you will hear when I'm opening the room. But that might be a little too late of a notice for you if you're in the middle of dinner. I usually do it on Thursday nights at 7:30. We just had the last one Thursday, like 3 days ago. So it'll probably be in another 4 to 6 weeks. I'm actually doing a food and beverage one. If any of you are watching or listening, Food and Beverage Magazine has a club on Clubhouse, and they have asked me to bring a group of landlords together for a specialized Space Tank focused on food and beverage. So bakeries, pastries, coffee shops, chef-driven restaurants, pizza restaurants. So I'm going to be spending the next few weeks gathering the landlords that have second generation former restaurant spaces. And we're going to have an evening just for food and beverage sponsored by that club. So if we do that in the next 3 or 4 weeks, the next space tank will be 3 or 4 weeks after that for retail merchandisers. So those are all the questions for me, Janelle, I think, unless anyone else has any other questions. I love that you put this together.